This is the VILTROX 20mm lens. It's a full frame, cinematic, fully manual lens, and it has an L mount, and I'm going to talk about using it on my Panasonic S1. Alright, so this is the VILTROX 20mm lens, and before we get too deep into things, I do want to say this is not a sponsored video. I did purchase this lens with my own money. Okay, so this is the VILTROX 20mm cinematic full frame lens. It does have an L mount and it is a fully manual lens. But before I talk too much about this lens, I want to talk about how I got here, because I didn't buy this lens first. I bought this lens, which is the Sigma 14-24. Now this is a photography lens that can be used for video work, and it does have one significant downfall when it comes to video, and that is the autofocus or the manual focus. So we all know that the autofocus on the Panasonic cameras, particularly the S1, S1H, is not all that great. But that's okay. I thought, well, I'll just use it in manual focus. Well, what I found out once I got it on the camera was that this lens has a proportional focus motor. That means the faster that you move the focus ring, the more the focus is going to change, which is, great for photography, but not so great for video, because it makes it hard to have consistent focus pulls for video, because when you move this ring, it's not going to move the same amount every time. Now, Panasonic has a fix for that for video, and it's called linear focus mode. Now, on the Panasonic lenses, there is a separate motor in the lens that will move the focus the same amount every time. That's not true with this lens, and so when you move the focus, it's going to move a different amount every time, so that makes it very hard to predict how to focus. So basically, I concluded that I wasn't going to be using this lens all that much for video work, and I needed a better solution. So I set out to look and see what was on the market. And here's what I was looking for. I wanted a manual focus lens that I could use on my gimbal with the Tilta Nucleus Nano. So I wanted something with cinema gear, or with the gears on it, so that I could hook up the Nano to it. And I also wanted something that was either EF or L mount, and it had to be a full frame lens. I knew that I was looking for a wide angle, something between 15 and 20 millimeters. And I also knew that I wanted a manual aperture and manual focus control. Well, on the market, there is not a lot of choices that fits those requirements. There's the Leica Cine 15 T2.1 0D lens, which looks fantastic, but it's only available in Sony FE mount. So then recently, I also saw that this particular lens may be available in L mount, but it's not out yet. So Leica, if you're watching, send me one of those lenses. I also looked at different modified photo lenses. You can take a photo lens and have it modified into a Cine lens. And a popular one is the Sigma 18-35. The problem is that's not a full frame lens. So that led me here to the VILTROX. Alright, so let's talk about the specs of this lens. This is a fast lens with the widest aperture of T2. It goes up to T16. There are 12 different glass elements in here and 9 different groups. And the glass does have an HD nano multi-layer coating on it. The lens itself is water resistant and anti-fouling front lens. And it does have 14 blades on the aperture, which means you're going to get some really smooth bokeh. It does have this adapter on the front to be able to use a standard filter on it. This is a 82mm filter adapter here, and this ring just kind of sits on the front, which is really nice. Now, one of my only gripes on this lens is that when you put this adapter ring on here, which is the ring that's probably going to live on this lens most of the time, because it's the one where you can actually put a filter on it, the standard lens cover that comes with this no longer works. It only works on the pedal here. And so what I found out was you can use a standard 82mm lens cover, and that will fit on the lens. So if you're planning on using it mostly with the filter adapter here like I am, just go and get yourself an extra lens cap, and that'll work. So I want to talk a little bit about using this lens on the Panasonic S1. So when I first put this lens on the camera, it asked me what the focal length was, and it did that because there's no contacts on the back here. This is a fully manual lens. There's no electronics in it at all. So there's no way for this lens to talk to the camera. So when you first put it on the camera, it'll ask you what the focal length is, so you just put in 20 millimeters, hit OK, and then it goes on and is happy. Now the cool thing is, the next time I put this lens on, after having some of the Sigma lenses on there, it asked me what the focal length was, and it remembered 20 millimeters. So apparently it goes back to the previous setting. So also when you're using this is an L-mount lens, so you don't need any adapters. There's nothing else to go wrong. And also when you're doing focus on here, manual focus, the amount this focus ring turns is 94 degrees, which is nice because it gives you a lot of throw here to work with your focus. And it is, like I said, a pretty fast lens with the widest aperture of T2. Now you have to remember that this is a manual lens, so you're going to do all your focusing manually, and the aperture is not going to be controlled by the camera. You're going to have to physically move the ring. One thing I did find out when using this lens on the Panasonic S1 is that I did have to increase the focus peaking. Now focus peaking is when you manually focus the image, you'll see these outlines where the edges are, and that just helps you to know where the focus is set to. It's a really handy thing to have. Now I did find with this lens, I had to go into the settings and increase the setting from 0 up to +2, which is the highest setting in the software. But once I did that, the focus peaking started to work again, and everything was great. I was able to easily balance this lens on the DJI Ronin S. That was with the Tilta Nano Follow Focus motor. I also had my Polar Pro Basecamp filter on the front, and I didn't have any issues balancing this setup at all, which is great. So there's only a few things that I don't like about this lens. The first is, like I've already talked about, is this lens cap. It doesn't fit on with the 82mm filter adapter, but that's not really a huge thing. The other thing I don't like about this lens is that there's no line of Cine lenses to go along with it. If you go look at the VILTROX website, you'll see that this really is their only cinema lens, and it comes also in a Sony E mount. But there isn't a full line of cinema lenses in different focal lengths, which is not a big deal, but I did wish that there was some more variety because this is a nice little lens, and it does fit a niche in the market. So no big complaints about the lens itself except for that pesky little lens cap issue. Now I want to talk about some of the things that I do like about the lens. First of all is its weight and size. It's a good combination of weight and size. It feels really good on the camera. It's all metal construction, makes it feel really solid, and both the focus and the aperture rings turn really smoothly. I do like how it has this adapter ring for 82mm filters. Some lenses like the Sigma 14-24, they don't have an adapter for filters at all. And in fact, on this lens, the Sigma lens, it has a little area where you have to buy special filters if you want ND filters. So it's really nice to be able to have standard filters on a lens this wide. I do like how this is a Cine lens with the built-in gears, and I do like how the aperture itself is declicked for cinematography, which is great. It was very easy to set up with a follow focus. Basically just set the lens at infinity for focus, put the follow focus motor on there, put it in a calibration mode. It went from stop to stop because this lens does have hard stops, and it was able to easily calibrate the follow focus. So that was really nice and easy. And last, I like how this is a low-cost Cine lens. So this lens retails for $4.99, and you can get it up for just slightly lower prices if you watch some of the specials. So in summary, I like how this is a nice, low-cost, wide-angle Cine lens. It's pretty simple. There's no frills. It's a manual focus lens. I like how I can use the 82mm filters, and I like how sturdy and smooth the focus and aperture rings move. It seems like a nice image with not a lot of distortion. So give it a try. Let me know what you think of this lens. Well, that's it for this video. I'm Chris from Check 6 Creative Studio. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to click on the little bell so you'll get the notifications. And if you want to hear more of me, I co-host the Biz and Mayhem podcast, where we talk about all the mayhem in our careers and in life. Check it out. It's at bizandmayhem.com. And be sure to check out the Check 6 website. That's at check6studio.com. I'll see you next time.